Good morning, I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for October 18th, 2024. I'm going to be discussing today this concept of the collective Biden, that is, who's making U.S. policy. As we're at a moment of especially dangerous and turbulent times, and it's important to understand that the president is not the one who's making the decisions. He's very limited in his capabilities. I refer you to a column by Gilbert Doctorow, the noted Russian specialist. He wrote a column in September, "The Insane Recklessness of Collective Biden." And what he said in discussing the term is he said that for his sense is that the origin of the term was Russian talk show hosts. And Doctorow writes that given that the presidency assumed a collective form when the physical Joe Biden slipped into deep senility these last couple of years, that's when they started talking about collective Biden. Now we'll look at one part of the collective Biden, that is the Blinken network at the State Department in just a moment. But let me review some of the insane recklessness that Doctorow was referring to. First, today you have Biden in Berlin, and there are already demonstrations there. Biden is coming here to make up for the cancellation of his meetings earlier this month. He's going to be meeting with German President Steinmeier, and then after that he'll meet with Scholz, Macron, and Starmer. And the topic will mostly be the Ukraine war and the Gaza situation. Zelensky was not invited. Meanwhile, the Ramstein Ukrainian Defense Contact Group, which was set for October 12th, is now going to be meeting in November. But Biden is coming with some money for Ukraine, a $425 million package for air defense and also armored vehicles. There's a demonstration taking place in Berlin. My associates are involved in that. There are signs, "Mr. Biden, you are not welcome, no money for Ukraine and Israel." Now, meanwhile, Zelensky spoke to the European Council summit yesterday, and he demanded NATO membership. And he said, if we don't get NATO membership, then we will develop nuclear weapons. Now, later, under pressure, he backed down from that, and he said, well, we choose NATO, not nuclear weapons. And Mark Rutte, the General Secretary of NATO, said, look, you'll get NATO at some point, but not yet. But this kind of threat is backed up by a story in Bild Zeitung, a leading German tabloid, last week, I think it was, quoting a Ukrainian official who said, we have nuclear material, we have the knowledge, it will only take a few weeks to make the first bomb. Now, we haven't been able to confirm that, but there's been lots of talk that Ukraine could use a dirty bomb, which lets off radiation, which uses nuclear material for radiation, as a way of either a false flag to attribute that to Russia, or just to increase the threat, the lethal threat of the Ukrainian military. Now, then we have the situation in Gaza, where yesterday the Israelis apparently stumbled upon Yahya Sinwar's presence and killed him. He is was the leader of Hamas, the alleged mastermind of the October 7th attack. Biden greeted the news of his death by saying it's a good day for the world. It's time for the war to end and to bring the hostages home. Kamala Harris said it's time for the day after talks to begin, referring to what do you do after Hamas is gone. And Netanyahu triumphantly declared this was a landmark achievement in the effort to dismantle Hamas, and he said the time is now for a hostage release. Well, here's a simple question. Biden, Harris, Netanyahu, all of them said, now we can begin serious negotiations. I thought that was going on since October 8th. I thought that Blinken said, we're working hard for a ceasefire and negotiations. They're blaming it entirely on this one man, Sinwar, when in fact there was blockage created by Netanyahu himself. It's unclear what Blinken was actually doing with his 9 trips to the Middle East, but it certainly gives you an indication of some of the public relations games being played with this. Well, in fact, the Netanyahu plan from the beginning was to use this as an excuse to eliminate the Palestinians as a way of eliminating the so-called Palestinian problem. Now, there's some speculation. What does this mean for Israel's retaliation against Iran? And some people are saying that perhaps Israel will bomb Iran when the BRICS summit is taking place, which begins next week on the 22nd. Now, there's a precedent for that, using a major event of this sort as a way of launching a much broader campaign. And for this, I'll cite Lyndon LaRouche commenting in October 2011, after the murder of Libya's general and President Gaddafi. What LaRouche said is that the murder of Gaddafi was part of an opening in a campaign to eliminate the Assad government in Syria and also carry out regime change in Iran. But the broader goal, he said, was to destabilize Russia and China. Now, this is in October 2011, LaRouche wrote this, to destroy the potential for an alternative to be created to the collapsing City of London Wall Street system. Now, that was then. What's going on today? Well, London and Washington are out to wreck the BRICS. That's what the attack on Russia from Ukraine is all about, to destabilize the Russians, who are playing a leading role in pulling together an alliance of sovereign nations in Eurasia, and also with China to do the same thing in South Asia. An alternative to the unipolar order. Now, this is where you can then pick up this question of what is the collective Biden? Why is the collective Biden carrying out the policies that it does? And if you look at Blinken, there was a June 17th, 2022 event where Blinken released a list of names of the people who were members of his Foreign Affairs Policy Board. This is an agency inside the State Department. Now, who did he name as one of the co-chairmen of that board? Tom Donilon. Now, Donilon is someone who goes back to the Clinton administration. He was a top official under Obama. He was the national security advisor to Obama. He was in charge of the daily briefing to the president. He coordinated foreign policy, intelligence operations, and military operations, and oversaw the White House team on cybersecurity. Now, when Hillary Clinton lost the election in 2016, Donilon went to BlackRock, and he became the chairman of BlackRock's Investment Institute. Now, according to the firm, what the Investment Institute does is provide intelligence and direction for the project managers or the portfolio managers for investment opportunities with the billions of dollars that BlackRock is managing. And then, of course, that money can often determine what firms will live and die. It often shapes policy. BlackRock is one of the largest contributors in political money, that is, officials at BlackRock. But BlackRock itself has a market capitalization of $113 billion. And BlackRock has formed a partnership with JP Morgan Chase and with President Zelensky to take the lead in the reconstruction of Ukraine after the war. And what do they mean by that? Well, there'll be billions of dollars in contracts, but how will it be paid? From the raw material richness of Ukraine, which includes all kinds of strategic metals, excellent farmland, and so on. Now, some people said that Ukraine farmland was already being purchased by Fink and BlackRock. Apparently, that in itself may be a fake story, but what is clear is that Ukraine passed laws that would allow that to occur. And who would benefit from that? Well, who has that kind of liquidity? BlackRock. So this begins to get at this question of the corruption of the corporate forces behind the unipolar order. And this is why they don't want solutions to these wars. They don't want resolutions based on peaceful cooperation. They don't want a return to the principles of the Peace of Westphalia. They're very comfortable with perpetual warfare. And that's the role of Blinken. Not that Blinken is such a genius or such a powerful person. He's in a position where he's making the policy for collective Biden, which includes no negotiations with Russia, no negotiations in the Middle East that will go anywhere, and no negotiations with China. And so that's the problem that we have when we're dealing with American foreign policy. Now, I would encourage you to look at the link in the description section of an event coming up sponsored by Diane Sayre and Jose Vega, which will include a number of speakers talking about how we create a cultural change in the United States to improve the quality of thinking. So look at that and use the time this weekend to do a lot of thinking, because we're in a time of great difficulty, and we need Americans to think on a much higher level. So thanks for joining me today. Share this video, tell your friends, and I'll see you next week. Hello, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Support our independence to produce videos like these. Become a member of the LaRouche organization at thelarouche.org/member. By becoming a member for $25 or more, you'll get special access to the EIR Alert Daily Briefing and Weekly Magazine, which is what I read to stay on top of things.